Robert Redford.
The actor Robert Redford has died.
Robert Redford passed away today.
The legendary actor Robert Redford, one of the biggest stars in Hollywood. We have just had it confirmed that Robert Redford has died.
We don't benefit financially from the film, so therefore we just show what's out there and let the audience decide. I try to avoid that, but I think it's unavoidable. The mainstream cinema is pretty well obligated to finding as commercial a product as it can because of the money.
You know, I can't do this forever. I've been doing it since I was 21. As you move into your 80s, you say, hey, that's enough.
Redford made his name as an actor starting in the 1960s. Robert Redford was one of the greatest names in modern Hollywood. The 89-year-old actor died early this morning.
Hollywood lost one of its greatest legends when Robert Redford passed away at 89, and the world is still struggling to process what that really means. For decades, he wasn't just another leading man, he was the face of a golden era, the kind of actor whose presence could light up the screen without ever saying a word. But behind the fame, behind the classic good looks, Redford's story was filled with struggles, controversies, and choices that shaped not only his life, but the very future of filmmaking. His death in the quiet of his Sundance home may sound peaceful, but the details surrounding his final years reveal just how much he carried with him to the very end. Fans and fellow stars alike have been speaking out, not just about his legendary roles in Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid or The Sting, but about the sacrifices, the heartbreaks, and the fierce battles he fought away from the cameras. And here's the part most people don't realize: Robert Redford wasn't simply an actor. He was a director, a pioneer, and an activist who challenged Hollywood to take independent cinema seriously, long before it was profitable or trendy. He stood up for causes others ignored. He created opportunities for voices that would have otherwise been silenced. And he lived a life that was far more private and complicated than the polished image the world thought it knew. So today, we are not just looking at the tragic news of his passing. We are uncovering the hidden chapters of his story, the painful moments, the shocking truths, and the powerful legacy he leaves behind. Because Robert Redford's journey didn't just end at 89. In many ways, it's only just beginning. Robert Redford's path to Hollywood was anything but guaranteed. Born on August 18, 1936, in a modest neighborhood of Van Nuys, California, he didn't grow up surrounded by luxury or fame. His father worked as a milkman, and his family lived a life that was simple, far from the spotlight he would one day dominate. Redford himself often admitted he felt restless as a young man, like he was searching for something bigger, even if he didn't yet know what that was. At first, it wasn't acting that pulled him in. Redford had a love for art and dreamed of being a painter. He studied at the University of Colorado on a baseball scholarship, but his time there didn't last. After losing direction, he traveled through Europe, sketching and painting, trying to find meaning in a world that felt uncertain. Those years wandering shaped him in ways Hollywood never could, giving him a perspective that would later show through in his roles and his films. When he finally turned toward acting, it wasn't immediate success. He started with small TV appearances, fighting for recognition in a cutthroat industry. His first real break came on Broadway with Barefoot in the Park, where audiences and critics couldn't ignore the charisma and energy he brought to the stage. Soon after, Hollywood noticed, and he transitioned into film roles that slowly began building his reputation. But it wasn't until 1969, when Redford starred alongside Paul Newman in Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, that everything changed. The film wasn't just a hit, it was a cultural phenomenon, and suddenly, Robert Redford wasn't just an actor. He was a star. With his charm, good looks, and ability to bring depth to every role, he became one of the most sought-after names in the industry. And yet, this was only the beginning. His rise to stardom brought challenges he didn't expect, challenges that would follow him throughout his career. After the explosive success of Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, Robert Redford quickly became Hollywood's golden boy. Studios lined up to cast him in roles that capitalized on his charm and good looks, but Redford was determined not to be boxed in. He didn't just want to play the handsome leading man, he wanted roles that mattered, stories that had weight. In the 1970s, he cemented his place in history with a string of iconic films. The Sting reunited him with Paul Newman and became one of the highest-grossing movies of its time. All the President's Men showed his commitment to meaningful storytelling, diving into the Watergate scandal at a time when the wounds were still fresh for America. And The Way We Were, opposite Barbra Streisand, gave audiences one of the most unforgettable love stories in film. But behind the critical acclaim, Redford faced a constant battle. Hollywood didn't always take him as seriously as he wanted. His good looks, which made him bankable, also became a double-edged sword. Some critics dismissed him as just another pretty face, unable to see the depth of talent that his performances carried. Redford himself admitted that being seen only for his appearance frustrated him, and it pushed him to seek out roles and projects that challenged both him and the industry. He also turned down roles that could have made him even bigger, choosing integrity over easy fame. He wasn't afraid to take risks, whether it meant tackling political subjects, playing morally grey characters, or walking away from safe projects that didn't align with his values. And those risks would eventually pay off in ways nobody expected. Because Redford wasn't just preparing for more acting, he was preparing to transform Hollywood from behind the camera. By the late 70s, Robert Redford had already secured his place as one of the most bankable stars in the world. But he wasn't satisfied. He knew that Hollywood was chasing profits more than creativity, and for him, that wasn't enough. So, instead of clinging to his star power, Redford stepped behind the camera, a move that shocked many at the time. In 1980, his very first film as a director, Ordinary People, stunned the industry. It didn't just succeed, it won 4 Academy Awards, including Best Picture and Best Director for Redford himself. Overnight, he proved he wasn't just a face on screen. He was a storyteller with vision, capable of pulling raw emotion and honesty from his actors. It was a clear message. Robert Redford was here to challenge the system, but his biggest contribution to the future of cinema came when he built something from the ground up, the Sundance Institute and later the Sundance Film Festival. He saw how many brilliant filmmakers were being ignored by the studio system, shut out simply because their work didn't fit the Hollywood formula. Sundance became their refuge, a place where independent voices could finally be heard, and it worked. From Quentin Tarantino to Steven Soderbergh, countless directors credit Sundance as the launchpad for their careers. Redford had created more than a festival. He had created a movement. Suddenly, indie film wasn't just a niche, it was shaping culture, challenging blockbusters, and proving that audiences were hungry for something real. Through it all, Redford never tried to make Sundance about himself. He kept the spotlight on the artists, insisting that their stories mattered more than his fame. It was this selflessness, combined with his relentless drive, that helped reshape modern cinema. But while his work was transforming Hollywood, his personal life and values were pulling him in another direction, far away from the flashing lights of Los Angeles, away from the cameras. Robert Redford was just as outspoken as he was in Hollywood. He wasn't afraid to take a stand, even when it put him at odds with the powerful. A lifelong environmentalist, he poured time and money into protecting the natural world, speaking out about climate change long before it became mainstream. But activism wasn't his only focus. Redford also fought for free expression in the arts, often criticizing the film industry for playing it safe and silencing bold voices. While some in Hollywood saw him as difficult, others admired him for refusing to compromise his principles. This fierce independence made Redford more than just a movie star, it made him a cultural force, someone who used his fame to push for change. Robert Redford passed away on September 16, 2025, in the quiet of his Sundance home, surrounded by loved ones. It was a peaceful ending, but the impact of his life resonated across Hollywood and beyond. Fans, colleagues, and fellow legends poured out their memories, from Meryl Streep to Jane Fonda, all praising not just his talent, but his integrity and generosity. Tributes highlighted more than his screen presence. People remembered a man who created opportunities for others, who fought for causes he believed in, and who lived life on his own terms. His passing marks the end of an era, but his influence, through Sundance, his films, and the countless artists he inspired, will continue shaping Hollywood for generations. And yet, the story doesn't end here, because Redford's legacy isn't measured by awards or fame alone, but by the doors he opened and the standards he set for what it means to be a true Hollywood icon. Robert Redford's name will forever be synonymous with more than just classic films. He changed Hollywood from the inside out, proving that independent storytelling could thrive alongside blockbusters. Through the Sundance Film Festival, he gave countless filmmakers a platform to share bold, original ideas, voices that might never have been heard without him. His influence goes beyond cinema. Redford showed that fame doesn't have to come at the expense of principles, that activism, humility, and artistry can coexist. Environmental causes, Native American rights, and artistic freedom were not side projects. They were central to who he was. Even now, years after his most famous roles, new generations are discovering his films, learning from his choices, and drawing inspiration from his dedication to authenticity. Robert Redford may have passed at 89, but his impact will ripple for decades, in every indie film festival, in every story told with honesty, and in every actor or director who chooses integrity over convenience. His life reminds us that true legends aren't measured by box office numbers or awards alone, but by the doors they open, the standards they set, and the courage to leave the world a little better than they found it.